This is the Italian Citizenship Podcast, hosted by Marco Permunian and Rafael Di Furia.
Hello there, and welcome to another edition of the Italian Citizenship Podcast, presented by Italiancitizenshipassistance.com. Of course, we are back at it again with Italian attorney Marco Permunian. How are you doing today?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. And in today's episode, we wanted to compare and contrast Italian citizenship against Irish citizenship, but specifically going through a great-grandparent. There are some technicalities which make the two very different, and we wanted to go into this because we do know that there are a significant number of people who are both of Irish descent as well as Italian and have both in their family background. So Marco, before we get into how Irish citizenship through your ancestry is a bit different, can you give us a quick rundown of the Italian citizenship through a great-grandparent and how that would work?
When applying for Italian citizenship by descent, there is no generational limit, meaning that you can use any Italian ancestor who was born in Italy, no matter what the relationship is to you. So it can be a grandparent, it can be a great-grandparent, or even great-grandparent, as long as he or she was born after 1861 or was alive in 1861 when Italy was unified, and as long as they didn't become a citizen of another country before their child was born in the foreign country and before 1912. And also, if there is a female ancestor in your Italian lineage, that female must have given birth to their child after January 1st of 1948. So, in conclusion, there is no generational limit with regard to Italian citizenship by descent. You just need to meet, though, the other requirements, which are the most important of which I just mentioned. Now, if you consider that there is no language requirement for those interested in applying for Italian citizenship by descent, it's easy to imagine how many people of Italian descent can qualify for Italian citizenship by descent. And specifically talking about the United States, as of 2010, there were at least 16 million Italian Americans, and many of those qualify for Italian citizenship by descent because of a variety of factors. First of all, the emigration from the big one, from Italy to the US, happened between the late 1800s and the early 1900s. Of course, it continued even after that time period, but the majority of people left Italy and went to the US in that time window. And it took several years for Italians to actually become naturalized in the US because they had to speak the language, they had to know the laws and the Constitution. So they, generally speaking, had the time to have children before they became US citizens. And that's how one of the most important requirements is generally met, which is that the Italian ancestor was not a naturalized US citizen at the time of the birth of their children in the US, which, like I said, normally that's the case. And then the second most important requirement is also generally met in most cases because most Italian immigrants didn't naturalize until after 1912. Again, that has to do with the sequence of events and with the fact that most Italian immigrants emigrated to the US between the late 1800s and the early 1900s. So once again, this requirement is in most cases also met. And if you consider that speaking Italian is not required by the law, you realize how easy it is for Americans of Italian descent to qualify for Italian citizenship by descent. Of course, not all of them qualify, and Italiancitizenshipassistance.com offers a free eligibility evaluation service where we determine if a potential applicant is eligible to apply for Italian citizenship by descent. Now, since we're talking about applying for citizenship through a great-grandparent, there are some people that will not qualify for Italian citizenship by descent because one or more of these requirements are not met. And for instance, if your great-grandparent became naturalized very early before the birth of their child in the US or prior to 1912, you will not qualify for Italian citizenship by descent through that specific great-grandparent, through that specific ancestor, but you might qualify through your female ancestor, for example, the spouse of this ancestor who was naturalized before the birth of the next in line or before 1912. But I've said it a moment ago, if you have a female ancestor who gave birth to their child before 1948, then you don't qualify for citizenship by descent, but you can qualify to apply for citizenship through a 1948 case, which is a court process that you can initiate in Italy through the Italian courts based on a Supreme Court's decision from 2009 that basically makes it possible for women to pass their Italian citizenship onto their children, even if the law didn't allow it. But now, thanks to the Italian jurisprudence and those legal precedents, it's possible to claim citizenship through a female ancestor as long as you do it through the courts. So, applying for citizenship in Italy through a great-grandparent is relatively easy, meaning that several people will end up qualifying because of the set of circumstances and the qualification rules that are required by the Italian government.
Very interesting, Marco. Thank you so much for going into all of that detail. And just to move on to Irish citizenship, I know when it comes to going up to your grandparents that it's a bit easier, but when it comes to going through your great-grandparents for Irish citizenship, that there can be some complications and some extra criteria that have to be met, very specific criteria. Can you tell us a little bit more about some of the intricacies of getting Irish citizenship through your great-grandparents and how that really differs from getting Italian citizenship through your great-grandparents?
Applying for Irish citizenship by descent is relatively easy if you are applying through a parent or grandparent, meaning that just because you are the child of an Irish citizen or a grandchild of an Irish citizen, you can file an application through the Foreign Birth Registry and get Irish citizenship by descent relatively quickly. You have to compile the documents that show your lineage. So all of the documents from the Irish-born parent or grandparent down to you, and legalize these documents and submit them through the Foreign Birth Registry and be granted Irish citizenship relatively quickly. Generally speaking, the process takes about 9 months. Now, if you have an Irish-born great-grandparent, meaning that your parent and grandparent were both born outside of Ireland, for example, in the US, you can still apply through the Foreign Birth Registry, but only if your parent became an Irish citizenship through the registration, through the Foreign Birth Registry before you were born. Of course, that's not common. So it's not common to have a parent who became an Irish citizen through the registration of their birth certificate through the Irish Birth Registry before you were born. So how can these people claim Irish citizenship by descent through a great-grandparent? Now, it is possible through a process which falls under the umbrella of citizenship through naturalization, which is called citizenship through association. So you can claim Irish citizenship through association, meaning because you have strong ties with Ireland. Now, the application is submitted through the Department of Justice, and it's evaluated by the Ministry of Justice, and the approval of your claim is completely up to the discretion, and you will have to provide evidence that you have very strong ties with Ireland in order to be granted Irish citizenship through association. Now, there is also a residency requirement, meaning that you need to have resided in Ireland for at least 3 years in order for your application to be easily approved. However, this requirement can be waived at the discretion of the Ministry of Justice if you, again, can prove that you have strong ties with the country. For example, by showing that you have relatives in Ireland, or that you are a member of several Irish American clubs, or, for example, by showing that your parent went through the process of citizenship by descent and gained citizenship by descent through a parent or grandparent, or that he or she are in the process of doing so, that will make your case stronger. But like I said, the approval is completely up to the discretion of the ministry, and it can take up to 3 years to get a response.
Fascinating, Marco. And I'm just curious, though, you mentioned that you do have to show some sort of connection with the country itself. And are there any other ways that you can demonstrate having this connection to Ireland?
Yes. For example, you can outline your motivation for applying for Irish citizenship through association, or list friends, relatives living in Ireland, or you can outline your work connections with the country itself if you have any. Or, for example, if you have properties there that could help, or you could outline future plans to live in Ireland. And also, if you own a business there, that could really help your application. Or finally, you could just share your interests and hobbies that have to do with the country itself, and that could help your application further.
Marco, this has all been very interesting, and I'm just wondering, what would be the associated fees with this sort of application? And also, when we're talking about going through this process to get Italian citizenship or Irish citizenship by descent, is a lawyer necessary for either of these? Or if it's not necessary, how much of a difference will it make at the end of the day?
The cost for applying for Irish citizenship through association is 175 euros, which is a non-refundable application fee. Now, if your application is approved and citizenship is granted, you will have to pay for your certificate of naturalization, which costs another 950 euros. With regard to Italian citizenship by descent, if you apply through an Italian consulate in the US, the application fee is 300 euros. Whereas if you file an application through an Italian court, which is the process that I mentioned before for people who have a female ancestor who gave birth to their children prior to January 1st of 1948, the filing fee is 545 euros. Now, you asked whether it's necessary to have a lawyer to go through either of these processes. Now, regarding Irish citizenship by descent through the Foreign Births Registry, it is not necessary to have a lawyer, and the same goes for an application for citizenship through association in Ireland. However, it might be worthwhile to get professional assistance to go through the process of citizenship by descent or citizenship through association to make sure that you have all of your documents in order. Regarding Italian citizenship, while it's not necessary to have an attorney to help you with citizenship by descent through an Italian consulate, again, it's generally recommended to get the assistance of a lawyer, like ItalianCitizenshipAssistance.com, to make sure that you have all of your documents in order before you present them to the Italian consulate. And with regard to applying for citizenship through an Italian court via a female ancestor, in that specific case, it is necessary to be assisted and represented by an Italian attorney.
Well, thank you so much, Marco, for going into all of this detail. And of course, if anybody's needing help with either Italian citizenship or Irish citizenship by descent, how can they get in contact with you and your team?
People can contact us through our website, ItalianCitizenshipAssistance.com, or give us a call. Our number is on the website.
Absolutely fantastic. And of course, if you're interested in more about getting Italian citizenship and all of the details of how to do so, be sure that you're subscribed to this YouTube channel as well as the audio-only podcast, as well as if you're interested in information about purchasing property in Italy and real estate, be sure that you are subscribed, because if you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, you're also automatically subscribed to the Italian Real Estate Podcast, or you can find the Italian Real Estate Podcast through your favorite podcasting platform of choice. And also, if you're interested in discussions revolving around living as a dual citizen expat living abroad in Europe, be sure to come over to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Rafael Di Furia, or you can search for Not Your Average Globetrotter. But of course, we have been here again with Italian attorney Marco Permunian. I'm Rafael Di Furia. Stay safe and healthy out there, and we will see you all next time. Later.
Thank you.